these are our results. You can see just this year alone, we've had 1 Harvard acceptance, 2 MIT, 2 Wharton School. So that's the top undergraduate business school from the University of Pennsylvania, University of Chicago, Boston University, and then many other universities. Also of note, our students received up to 2 million, not Vietnam dong, 2 million US dollars of financial aid and scholarships, and still counting. So back in the day when I applied to college, we received our acceptance letters in the mail. It was a piece of paper, and we received it in the mail. Nowadays, in the digital world we live in, students have to apply through a common application or a common portal. And after they apply, each of the universities provide their own login portal where you can keep track of the progress of your application, the status of your application, and then ultimately, if you get in. When you apply to universities, there's really a few outcomes. Acceptance, which is what we're celebrating here today, rejection, and rejection is also something we have to live with, right? We have to learn from our failures. And then there's what's called deferral, which means that you roll it from the early round into the regular round. And then there's what's called a wait list. So those are different outcomes for students. This here is one of our students who gained acceptance to Harvard College. So the undergraduate school is called Harvard College, not Harvard University. And he'll be heading there this fall. Very excited. We've been coaching this student for about four plus years, and it's been incredible just seeing his journey. Little bit about his profile. In order to get into top universities, top Ivy League universities and top schools, the GPA needs to be around a 3.8 and above. So 3.8, 3.85 out of a 4.0 GPA. That stands for grade point average. So you don't have to have a perfect GPA, but it needs to be near perfect. Students, because they're applying for universities abroad, have to take standardized examinations. If you go to an international school, unless universities require it, students may have to take the TOEFL or the IELTS exam, which is a English as a second language proficiency test. And then all students generally have to take the SAT. So SAT is scored out of a 1600, and this student scored a 1500. So once again, for top universities, you want to be in that sweet spot of 1500, 1530, in that range and above. And you can see for universities, it's a very holistic process. So students have to do much more than just academics. Asian students generally study well, but it's much more than that. They need leadership. They need community service. They need demonstrated interest, which our students will talk about, which is aligning with your intended major, what you plan to study when you apply. So all of your activities need to align, or most of your activities should align with your demonstrated interest. And then how do you spend your summer? So summer is typically about 2 months. It's very important that you make productive use of your time. You can't apply to college and say, during the summer, I just traveled and stayed in nice hotels and ate really good food and write about that only. And students have to write essays, a lot of essays. The ladies here know. Students also have to get recommendation letters. So it's important to build rapport and relationship with your teachers, trust. And then, of course, they will write you favorable recommendation letters. So it's a very holistic process that you should not wait till the last minute to try to cram and do. And if you do, you're not going to succeed. Generally, the process should begin as early as grade 8, grade 9. And if we can be strategic in our approach to guide students, but also students have that intrinsic, that inner motivation and drive that all of these ladies here do, then you can be successful in this journey. So we have Rose here, who also gained acceptance to the University of Chicago, and she'll be sharing more about herself. And then we have Christine, who gained acceptance to Wharton School. So that's the top business school, undergraduate. It says right here, #1 undergraduate business school. All right, so I'm done talking here. I'll probably be coming back later, but for now, we're going to pass it off to student number one, who will share about her journey and her profile. Go ahead.
Hi everyone. My name is Tuệ Anh, and I'm currently a senior at St. Paul American School, Hanoi, which is one of the three schools that provide the advanced placement program. And this fall, I'm going to be attending Boston University, under business major. Um, my extracurriculars were very community service focused. Um, I co My friends and I founded a business and like a technology app where we would import goods and fruits from farmers all over Vietnam, and we would redistribute their goods since it's during COVID and they can't distribute it to many customers. So we would redistribute it through our app so to increase their sales and to so they would reach more consumers. And all of our profits were donated to a blood donor organization. Um, I was also the founder of Meiman, um, a project that we focus on hosting workshops for young kids to promote sustainability and smart usage of um, fruits and food products by producing artworks using waste from those food consumption. And I was also a co-founder and a teacher of WOWS Pro, where where we focus on creating a business and economics literacy course for young kids to teach them how to use and spend money wisely. The money that we received were donated to Operation, um, a charity that helped the um, visually impaired group of people. Because my passion were around business, I also participated in a lot of case competitions and business competition, like the Sage Global competition, Genius Olympiad case competition, and I was also a fellow of Global Citizen Initiative.
Fantastic. So the parents here can see students joining. Her GPA 3.895. How many APs did you take?
I take 5 APs.
So she took 5 advanced placement. This is college level courses as a high school student. And you can see here her demonstrated interest within business, which is her intended major at Boston University, commonly referred to as BU. She founded many clubs and projects and activities. So to start something from scratch, rather than joining and being a member and growing as a leader, is much more meaningful. And I just want to understand, like, what motivated you, or what still motivates you to be so busy, be so proactive in everything that you do.
Uh, my motivation was actually from seeing that what I'm doing is actually creating good for the community and other people. So uh an example is when me and my friends were working on our business. We were really like there were a lot of work to do, and we were like um in like a business competition at the time. So we have to prepare a lot and to build up our business to a wider audience. But when we visited the hospital where we would donate our money to the blood organization, we see that people were really happy with our work, and with our help, they were getting like better lives. And when we help farmers increase their revenue, we also see that our work is actually like having a real impact on the community, which is actually what motivates me to continue what I'm doing.
Fantastic. So for the common good, real impact that you could see visually and also measure quantitatively. Um, yeah. Also, can you explain a little bit about ED? What does ED1 mean?
So among all the choices of application, ED1 is early decision. So it's the school that you apply early to, and if you got accepted, you have to commit to that school.
So it's binding,
Yeah.
as in you applied to BU, you gained acceptance. When did you find out?
In in somewhere in the middle of December.
So you submitted your application last year, 2023, 31 October, 1 November. And within just a few months, middle of December last year, you got in. Yeah, so early decision is what we always encourage. As long as you begin this journey early, like in grade 8, grade 9, so you have all your testing, all your activities, basically your profile is complete and well packaged. And then you don't have to stress out. Right now, a lot of seniors, grade 12 students are stressing out because they're waiting for their results. Why BU? Can you explain like why you chose BU as the ED school?
BU was originally my top choice because Boston, BU is located in the heart of Boston, where there are a lot of opportunities for internships, co-op programs, or many other like chances to connect with like people. And BU is also a school with like long history of traditions, and there are many like student clubs and organizations that I feel that are really like important to me when choosing a school because it's where I'm going to be spending the next 4 years of my life.
Sure. Yeah, it's a very important decision. Thank you so much for sharing. But let's go on to student number 2, and I'll pass it to Mrs. Cookie to introduce Christine.
Hey, everybody. I'm so glad everyone's here to meet these amazing students. These are all the students that we wish we had been, and we're so proud of all of you. Christine, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, and then we'll chat a little bit.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I'm a senior in Hong Kong. I go to a school called Hong Kong International School, and I'm heading to the University of Pennsylvania to study statistics in the Wharton School, where I'll be joining the class of 2028. One big thing that I spent a lot of my time on is I'm the co-founder and chief product officer, of a gamified fitness app. Another thing that was a big project for me was I'm the program founder and director of the Data Science for Girls program. And alongside that, I do a lot of public speaking and debate. So I'm a 2-time member and captain of the Hong Kong National Public Speaking Team.
Thank you for throwing the rest of that in. That was like, wait, that's not all. So Christine, I would love for you to share with the parents and some of the students in our audience, in your opinion and your experience with your applications, what was kind of the most important thing to you in this process?
Yeah, if you notice from my extracurriculars, they kind of seem a little bit all over the place. So I have a lot of communication and kind of humanities-based activities like public speaking and debate. But then ultimately, I do want to go into more STEM fields with statistics and data science being my main focus. So for me, what I found was most important and I got the most help on and I was most grateful for was kind of curating my profile to all work together. So even though I have a lot of interests, finding a way to merge them together and seeing what other activities I needed or what things I needed to add that helped combine all of the authentic parts of myself so that I wasn't creating something that was just for my profile, but actually merged all my interests together, but helped the admissions officer that's going to see my profile actually see a cohesive story of who I am. I felt that was something I got a lot of help on and was ultimately something that I think was a big strategic decision that helped me in my application.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think a lot of students come through high school, they have lots of varied interests. You're not always targeted in on your ultimate career goal yet. And if you look, though, and you curate what you're doing, you are able to pull those threads of your personality and everything to make that, like you said, a cohesive picture. Thanks for sharing that. Now, one thing a lot of people get nervous about is testing. Who wants to take a test? Nobody, but it is so, so necessary. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did to prepare for the SAT and TOEFL and things like that?
Yeah, so the standardized test that I took was the SAT. My biggest tip, and I think the most important thing, is to finish it as early as possible. So I was able to finish SATs in my sophomore year, and I had a couple months of prep beforehand with Point Avenue actually, but I actually found that was probably one of the most helpful thing I could have done in my college application process. I think for standardized testing, the best way to do well, besides getting help and learning the material, is actually just doing practice tests over and over again. But the issue is a lot of these practice tests, like the SAT, for example, is like 3-hour chunks of time that you need to really carve out of your schedule. And when you get to like junior year or senior year, it's really hard for you to find that time alongside extracurriculars or different academics. And of course, grades are most important in junior year if you're applying to US colleges. So really trying to balance that is really hard. So I think in sophomore year, if you're able to get it out of the way as early as possible, just invest in that time when you do have that time. It allows you to, A, if you don't really do as well as you wanted to, just have more opportunities because you started earlier. But then B, it also frees up space for your junior year to focus on grades and extracurriculars, which is what I was able to do and have a really interesting junior year where I got to accomplish a lot of cool things.
Awesome. Yeah, that is great advice. And you definitely put in the work. It's not like this just happens. There's no magic wand here. You had to work. All of you did. Anything else, Christine, you want to add before we move on to Rose?
I just wanted to add that I think this process is something that can be very grueling at times, and oftentimes it can seem like it's just like reducing yourself to a profile. But I think if you're truly like authentic and you choose things that you want to do and you enjoy doing, I think ultimately it's a really cool reflective process where you're able to see like, even though you are packaging yourself into one profile, it's a profile that really truly does represent you. And I think that's something that's really cool.
Oh, well said. Well said. Thank you. All right.
Cookie, can I just ask a question in here?
Please.
Yeah, so I'm just jumping up with excitement because out of the students here, I've actually known Christine and her family the longest. Christine, you may have been in elementary school because your eldest brother was grade 8, grade 9 when we first met. And just a little bit of background, Christine comes from a family of 3, right? Siblings. And the eldest brother, through our mentorship and of course his own efforts, gained acceptance to Berkeley for undergraduate in data science, and then now is pursuing his master's in data science. Can you tell us also about your sister? And then also the question really is, as you saw your older siblings going through this process, when it was ready, set, go for you, like what was going through your mind? Was it like, oh, this is going to be a breeze? Or I hope I don't make the same mistakes that they did? Or because I've benefited from their lessons learned, right? So would like to just understand, like as the third child, what was some of the thought process that went through your mind?
Yeah, so my older sister is actually, she had a little bit different of an application process because she decided to, or she's going to art school. So she's currently at Parsons School of Design in New York. So she had a little bit of a different process because she had to do her portfolio and all of those things. But I think overall, I'm very grateful to be the youngest child. Usually I'm not I don't love being the youngest child, but I really do in this case because I think I learned a lot of things. I think something that was really helpful was my parents going through the process and knowing kind of what steps to take and when to do it. So having that guidance, I think was really helpful for me because they kind of knew the general idea of what steps to take. And then I also think just like seeing maybe my brother struggle with writing essays a little bit too late or things like that, or my sister kind of figuring out what things she wanted to put in her profile. I think all of that really helped contribute to just an idea of what this is like and kind of how it's truly manageable if you do kind of take the right steps. So that was something I was very grateful for.
That makes sense. All right. Thank you so much, Christine. Rose, I know all our fans here in Thailand want to hear about your process. Introduce yourself, if you will.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rosita Pol. I'm currently studying at Shrewsbury International School, Bangkok in Thailand, and I've just received my ED acceptance into the University of Chicago to pursue an economics major.
So Rose, I know this is something you have been building your profile, just like Christine, just like Tuệ Anh, and you have had a passion for economics for a long time. And in fact, you had to build this portfolio choose a school. So I'd like you to talk to us about both things. If you don't mind, I'd like to just know some of your extracurricular activities first that you did. Now, when we hear the phrase extracurricular activities, a lot of people think, oh, sports, or you sang in the choir or something like that. You had some extracurricular activities like these other ladies that are beyond the norm. Tell us a little bit about your book and your papers.
Yeah, so I wrote this book and it was a bestseller in Asia Books. Since I was interested in economics, I read a lot of books and articles, and I tried to summarize all my knowledge into this one book to make it more interesting for the younger generations. I titled the book, What Would the Great Economist Tell Us at Supper? So this was one of my extracurricular activities.
And Rose, if I'm remembering right, that was kind of motivated because some of your classmates, your friends, were like, dude, economics, that is so boring. And you were like, no, it's not. Let me explain it to you. And that kind of inspired you to write your own book so that you could make your friends understand it on the same level that you do. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome. You also did some other extracurricular activities that added to your profile that on their surface, they might have sounded medical, but they really weren't. They were economics also, kind of like what Christine was talking about. You had a cohesive thread. Can you describe a little bit about that?
Yes, so I knew that University of Chicago emphasizes the importance of conducting research. So I tried to conduct research on the barriers to uptake to healthcare in both Nepal and Thailand. It was published in medical journals. So in the research process, I tried to highlight my statistical skills and show the ability that I'm able to apply them to real life scenarios. And to sum it all up, I used all the funds from the book that I wrote of 3,000 USD to fund the patient's transportation to the hospital, which was the main barrier I found whilst interviewing patients there.
Right. It really came full circle. So with all of this economics background, you knew completely what you wanted to do, but how did you go about the process of deciding which school taught the economics that you wanted to learn? Because many schools have good programs.
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. There are many great schools, but when talking about economics, the University of Chicago has always been my first choice because of its excellence and reputation in economics. When considering the university, for me personally, when I read about economics, the University of Chicago always comes up, and many of my most favorite economists were involved in this university. This university has many Nobel laureates and excellent researchers. It's also famous for its broad core curriculum. So in the first year, I would be able to study lots of interdisciplinary courses ranging from political science to philosophy to psychology and computer science. So that's the main reason I chose University of Chicago.
Right. So, and I remember this process too. You told me where the philosophies aligned, which schools had the philosophies you wanted to study most. And what I think sometimes is a mistake that students or their parents could make is they think, oh, we just want to go for this name brand school, this Ivy League, that Ivy League. And my next question is, great, do they have a good program in what you want to study? And that, I think, is a really key thing, to do your research. Of course, we helped you do that, and that's what we do. But to find out which school is really going to deliver the product you want to buy. And that product you're buying is a great education, but you want to get the right thing. So, Rose, given all of this and what you've heard your peers here saying, any last words, any last thoughts for students going through the admission process?
Yes, I actually have a big piece of advice. I think that all students should make an early decision of what they want to be, and they should focus on that field as soon as possible and do extracurriculars within that field. Make sure you ask for help and find the university that will fulfill your knowledge, and look what they need from you and apply early decision to them.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rose. So we're going to talk about some trends in what's going on right now with applications. So I'm going to go through this kind of fast. There's going to be information available to you later And you can always give us a call and talk, and we can talk about this more. But some of the trends that we're seeing, and this is nothing new from the past couple of years, that there are many more students applying for the same limited number of seats at the colleges. This is, normal and natural, but we saw an extra wave post-COVID. I think some students kind of held off. They didn't want to do online learning and they couldn't move about in the world. And so the numbers dropped a bit, and then whoosh, like a tsunami, it came back in. For international applications, we're seeing maybe half again as much, 55% increase in applications for the same limited number of seats. What this means is the ratio of how many people get in is going to be lower. The acceptance rate is lower. So if it used to be 10% getting into a certain school, that school may now only have 5% because so many more are trying to get in. And I'll just wait. Yeah, there we go. Danny, thank you. Another trend that we're seeing is some schools will talk about test optional. We'll talk about this in a little bit more detail in a few minutes, but more schools are offering test optional. Some schools, in fact, University of California system does not even want to see your SAT scores. So there's a lot of stuff going on about that, but it's really key, especially for international students, that you do this correctly. And we'll talk about this in a minute. More trends that we're seeing is when schools are test optional, or when they, like the California schools, don't want certain tests, that means that more of your profile must depend on your AP scores, your essays, and your extracurricular activities. So it puts those things much more in the spotlight than they ever have been at any time previous to this. So what are they looking for? The main things that you want to get, and you already know some of this, is really good grades. Ideally, you want to have the best grades you possibly can. If that can be all A's, awesome. Does it have to be all A's? No, but we still want to go for it. College prep courses, so that would be your AP courses and your other high-level courses like your A levels, your high levels, all of those. Are you taking, the main thing to remember is, are you taking the most challenging courses that your school has to offer? That's the key thing. Are you taking regular biology and skipping the honors or the AP? Ideally, you need to work your way up and take the most challenging courses to show that you can handle college level rigor. If your school does not have the challenging courses like AP courses, then we can help you find other ways to take those courses and get credits for them and get get exams for those, so that you can show the admission officers that you can handle that level. And then the strength of the curriculum. This is a tricky thing. If you're at, say, a famous boarding school in the UK or the US, your admissions officers will know that school. They will know what that curriculum is, and they can measure you compared to other students. But when you are coming from a school on the other side of the planet, they don't necessarily know the strength of your curriculum. So they have to depend on certain things to show that you're really ready for college. And if you look at the next slide here, it's going to show you the test scores are really important, especially for international students. It gives the schools a way to compare you to other students from inside that country and elsewhere. So the test optional thing, again, we'll talk about it in a moment, but those tests are important to give you a good, solid metric in which to be measured. And your essays, another key thing for you. Another thing that's really important are your teacher and counselor recommendations. Now, this does not happen by walking up to your teacher after finals in the springtime and saying, oh, before I go away for summer, I'm going to need a recommendation later. No, teacher recommendations actually start with the relationship that you build with those teachers the entire time you know them. You might have a biology teacher your freshman year, and then in your sophomore year, they're a different teacher, maybe even your chemistry teacher. But the relationship you build with that teacher is more than the grade you make or the classwork you do. It's also your character while you are in those classes. Are you a good team player? Do you know how to think hard and challenge yourself? Are you able to be humble and ask questions instead of suffering through and making a bad grade? So all of those soft skills We want you to have those really nicely with your teachers. They are your best link to learning and then recommending you for college. Finally, your extracurriculars. Are you a Lewis Hamilton and driving Formula F1? Awesome. That goes on your resume. Anything you do that adds and helps you grow as a person and as a human being, that could be music, it could be sports, it could be computer coding, anything that you do that's a little bit aside from your academic work. It can be connected, but it doesn't have to be. Those are important things that help you grow and make you an interesting person. The US schools in particular are really interested in seeing that wholesome look. Now, let's look at your classes. Your GPA, that's your grade point average, all of the classes you take, all the way from the math, the sciences, the English, the Chinese, anything you're taking all adds up. They count more when they're higher level. So again, I've already said this, but taking the highest level classes that you can and do the best that you can. An admission officer would much rather see an A- in a AP or difficult class than an A in a more simplified class. All right, the next thing, let's look at when these classes occur. Your academic courses obviously are going to occur over your entire high school career. And when you switch to A levels and higher levels, you're going to spread these things out. Obviously, we don't want you trying to take a ton of very difficult things your 10th grade year. You have to ramp up, but ideally, you finish high school, for AP's example, with between 4 and 9 AP courses. Now, if your school did not have AP courses, but you're still interested in US schools, you can take some through Khan Academy. You can do the testing, and you will already know some of the information because you took it in your A levels or in other coursework. It's still the same subject. Standardized testing is the next section here. So you want to be able to know when to take those tests. Danny, if you could flip that slide for me, that'd be great. TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo, those are some of the language testing to test your English. TOEFL is the preferred test in the United States. It gives you quick results, and it's easy to distribute results to the schools you choose. IELTS is in the UK. It's a little bit more tricky to get those results spread around to people. It's what the UK is used to, and it works fine for that. And it can work fine for the US. It's just a little trickier to share your results. Duolingo, you get your results in 2 days, but not every school accepts that test. So you want to do your homework to make sure. I always recommend you do the TOEFL. If you like the Duolingo also, you can maybe do that as a preliminary and try that out. ACT versus SAT. SAT is probably more popular, but I still love for students in their 10th grade year or so to give both of those tests a try on a mock level, not the official test, but a practice test that we can get online or provide you, because some students really do better on one style than the other. And you may prefer one than the other. In the US, both tests are fine. And we just encourage you to do what you can do best in and then drill down and really study and prepare. The timing for those tests, it was on that grid just a second ago, is you want to take the TOEFL and the IELTS. If your English is pretty good, take it early, get it out of the way. And if you don't do well on it, that's okay. You have time to study, prepare, and then get it out of the way. But just like Christine was advising all of you, take those tests early, get them out of your way. The SAT, you can only take 3 times. So you want to kind of pace it. You know, if your math skills are not going to do that well, you might have to wait until the beginning of your 11th grade year. You might have to finish that 10th grade year to be ready for that level of math. But we help analyze what's going to be best. Early is better. And then let's look at whether those tests are really optional. Danny, can you hit that slide again? So here's the thing. Schools want to take some of the pressure off of students. And so they have said that the ACT and the SAT can be test optional. The problem is if you do not provide them with that measurement to compare you with the other students all trying to get the same seat, then they only have your report card grades. And again, remember, they may not know what kind of school you went to across the planet. And then your AP tests, if you have them, your essays and your extracurriculars. You really do yourself a huge favor to take this test, do as best as you can. And if it's a good score, share it. If it's not a good score, then we work on that. But skipping that test is generally not a good option for international students. Maybe in the future that changes, but not yet. In fact, let's look at some of these schools here. Penn, this is where Christine's headed. Of the people who got in 2022, 71% turned in their SAT test or their standardized tests. At Vanderbilt, 61% of the people who got in shared their tests. In Georgetown, 90%. So like almost everybody is sharing their tests. So right now it is still the gold standard. It is just what you need to do. All right, let's go to the next little thing here. And here's an example of this spring. This is the SAT that's coming up. Many of our students will be taking the March or the May test. The ideal thing is these students that finish these out will be done. They'll spend their summer working on their applications. And I see my students in here nodding, going, yep, get it done so that this summer you can worry about other things. So sign up, get it done, get test prep if needed, and that's going to help you a lot. All right. So let's look at two more little slides here. Now, Danny, don't switch this one yet until I ask for it, if you don't mind. I want you to take a peek. The far right side, you see a 1600. That's a perfect score on a SAT. And the top line is a 4.0, straight A's, perfect grades. Now, if you look in the corner, the upper right corner, where all of those green dots are, each one of those dots is a student that got into Harvard. Now, keep looking at that corner. They had perfect grades and a perfect SAT. Look at that green corner. Okay, Danny, hit the button if you would. These are the kids that did not get into Harvard. Ouch, right? These were perfect kids. They had great scores. Why didn't they get in? The kids on the green dots, they had some kind of special sauce. Like every one of these students on the student panel has here. They had something special beyond the SAT score and beyond their wonderful grades, because lots of people had good scores. But these kids had something else that get them into Harvard. And Hang is going to talk about that process. She's an expert and was going to tell you how you get from A to B. Thanks for listening to all of this statistical stuff here.
Hi everyone. Can everyone hear me? So my name is Hạnh. I'm currently based in Vietnam, and I'm specialized in helping students navigate their career college majors and develop their narrative, that I would like to call it narrative, to demonstrate their interests, which is of great importance in college admissions. And I'm here today to help everyone better understand Point Avenue's educational approach to supporting and guiding students during their college application journey. So we, as you can see here in this slide, we approach and help and treat each and every student as a unique individual, and that won't be a one-size-fits-all roadmap. We spend great amount of time to get to know students, to listen to their stories, and build an action plan on their strengths and interests. And specifically, we work really closely with parents as well, parents and students, to design a personalized, a customized roadmap in both academic and non-academic aspects, and that is frequently updated to welcome new ideas, challenges, and even a complete change of plan. And we got that a lot. A lot of kids came to us with a specific major in mind, and within a year or so, he or she completely changed their mind and persuaded our consultant and their parents to follow and support them, right? And that is fantastic. That is totally fine, right? And there's one thing that we specifically we're not doing, right? We will help the student, we will guide the student, but we are not doing the job for the student, right? We are doing a much harder work, which is like helping, like monitoring and guiding and teaching, right? So that the student gonna work and gain the necessary skills, right? Not us, right? Students are the one who do and learn and grow, right? And that is the level of commitment that we as mentors believe is needed for our students, right? So with a clear direction, a personalized roadmap, and a monthly, weekly, detailed action plan, we believe that students will thrive and become mature as we always talk to each other that the college application is just a high quality byproduct of this organic personal growth, right? Again, college application is a high quality byproduct of student organic personal growth, right? We are not doing this just to have like a college application, right? We are doing this for our students' development and growth. And that is our ultimate goal. And that's why we are here today and share our stories to help more students achieve their goals, achieve their personal goal, right? Not just academic, not just college in the US, right? So during our time with the students, apart from planning and supporting with test prep and other required part of the college app, we pay great attention to supporting students' personal project, or we like to call it like Spike. Here are some of our students' initiatives, and it could be, as you can see here, founding a student organization to fundraise a lot of money, like $50,000, right, to build basketball court in underprivileged areas. Or as you can see here, Bank Me microfinance. So this is a microfinance organization that loan money for women of ethnic minorities. We also support students in building their own social media channel or podcast to share the knowledge. So this one is of a student. This one here you see the food unwrap by Trang Nguyễn. This is of a student who was interested in food science. She not only recorded and shared different topics about nutrition and science behind food. She also like reached out to experts in different fields to collab and host exciting episodes. The books here about economics and cryptocurrency were penned and published by our students as well. As Rose just shared with you guys about her economics book. And for this one, the one about cryptocurrency was from our twin student, one of whom is the owner of the prestigious full ride scholarship to UNC Chapel Hill, right? So as mentors, both like Cookie, myself, and Danny, we are so glad to be part of these initiatives as their trusted companions and advisors, right? We are here for this, right? We are not just like giving a checklist. Hey, you have to achieve this level of SAT, right? That's on you, right? But what we are here to help is, hey, I have this idea. Can we brainstorm more? Can we talk more? Can we do this together? I'm here to help, right? We are gonna be those friends, those companion and mentor, and we are in this together. So, and besides what we are doing with our students, right? I'd like to share some tools that we usually use to help students navigate their possible career paths or college major. And based on that, we're gonna design the most suitable easy which is extracurricular activity and the Myers-Briggs company. Our students only need to spend half an hour to complete this, and we'll schedule an interpretation meeting between the student.
And MBTI is one of the many assessment tools that we use to help students. Most of the time when you're in grade 8, grade 9, you come to Point Avenue, you come to school, and people say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And just as confident as Rose, Christine, and Tuệ are here right now, they surely weren't when they're at that age and in that grade. So there's various tools that we use to help students discover their interests, their preferences, their passions, which eventually then build up into their demonstrated interest. And we provide this assessment tool for students, but also have many other tools that we use. A big part of succeeding in life is goal setting. So you can see how detailed this is from week 1 to week 11. And it provides goal setting across different facets of the student's life. So from academic to standardized testing to extracurricular activities, we sit down and we establish what's known as SMART goals. And once again, we're teaching students the very skills that we learned and we also live by. And so we're just imparting that knowledge, and eventually it becomes habit. It becomes a disciplined routine. And before you know it, the students really take initiative and take charge of their own lives, and ready, set, go. They're ready for the next chapter, which is university. So more than just application services, we have a very unique program where we provide mentorship to students. So one-on-one mentorship, we work with students from everything, including being their big brother, big sister, and helping advise when it comes to friends, mentoring peers, right? When you are a leader of a club, you have to manage and mentor your own classmates. So from all of those aspects, we coach students from beginning to end and share in their joy and success when they cross the finish line. So across the past 12 years, and specifically, these are the results in the past 5 years, because we have been in both Vietnam and Thailand helping students, mentoring students. But we also do have students from outside Vietnam and Thailand, like Christine here. We've had some incredible results, not just to US universities, to Canadian universities, to UK universities, Australia, New Zealand, and universities abroad. Just like we have different shoe types and different shoe sizes, there is a best fit university for all students based on their interests, based on what they want to study, based on the lifestyle, the area, the climate, the environment. So these are all very important factors to consider and recognize that this decision you have to live with for the rest of your life, right? Once you get into university, typically it's a 3 to 4 year journey. You can see here, we have students from all around, and universities, very diverse universities. We have students who apply to art schools, to music programs, for architecture, for business, for STEM subjects, science, tech, engineering, mathematics, to humanities. So very, very diverse, because it's about helping students discover what they're passionate about and helping them achieve their goals. Top right here is Alex, one of my favorite students there that I coached over the years. And once again, he's an adult now, no longer a student, already pursuing his master's. We have students from all over the, oh, here we go. We have Tuệ Anh, Christine, and Rose down here. And, this is a model we live by, and we want to impart to the parents and the students here. So if you heard what we had to share today and you take no action, you do absolutely nothing, then you live according to this, right? Which is you're failing to plan. And if you do that, then you plan to fail. And failure is something that we all must experience in our lives, but you definitely don't want to fail in the college application process, because that's just going to be a very difficult emotional journey and a miserable experience, not only for the students, but for the parents. If you're crying, you want to be crying because you gained acceptances to universities. So this question here states, what is the suitable time for taking IELTS and SAT tests? Should we get both of those international certifications, or just one is fine? So yeah, to be clear, IELTS and SAT is not a international certification. These are standardized examinations. The IELTS, the TOEFL, the Duolingo, these tests are valid for 2 years. So the earliest you want to take it for record to submit to colleges would be in grade 11 or grade 12. SAT is something you want to get an early start on. So ideally, you want to begin SAT preparation as early as grade 9. Grade 8 is probably too soon because you need to have a foundation in both mathematics, reading comprehension, and grammar. And so ideally, you want to finish your SAT by end of grade 10. That would be the goal, right? You don't want to be taking SATs when you're doing your APs, your A levels, and your IBs on top of everything else. And maximum you want to take is 2 to 3 times. So you can't take the SAT so many times. It's not advised. For the IELTS, TOEFL, these exams, you can take it as many times as you want. And remember, there was a chart that Mrs. Cookie also shared that shows the progression from grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 to keep in mind. I wonder how long did it take for you to prep for the SAT? So that's more of a question for the ladies here. Christine, Rose, and Tuệ Anh, how long did it take you, and when did you begin? When did you finish? You want to start?
For me,
Yeah.
I started prepping for the SAT during like between 10th and 11th grade. I actually, yeah, and I prepped for it for, I think, like 1.5 year.
And your score was above a 1400 plus,
Yeah.
right? Which is a competitive score for Boston University. And Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, so I took it a little bit earlier. I took the March SAT when I was in my sophomore year, and I think I started prepping around October or November. So it was about 4 to 5 months of prep. And then I took it twice, but I got a 1530.
Nice. And Rose?
Yes, I also got a 1530. So IELTS and SAT, both of them, I spent 6 months revising fully for the tests.
Yeah, she goes to British school, so she uses the word revising, but that basically means preparing and studying. And also, Rose scored a 9.0 out of a 9.0 on the IELTS, which is a perfect score. So once again, ideally, early start is best. Ideally, you want to finish by grade 10, depending on the schools you're applying to. If it's Ivies, Ivy Leagues, Oxford, Cambridge, top universities around the world, 1500, 1530 plus out of 1600 would be ideal. And then depending on other universities, every university has what's called a common data set that you can find on their website. And it shows you what percentile scores you need and grades you need to be competitive. So generally for international students, you want to be in the 75th percentile. And that means that you're in the top 25%, right? So if you're in the 75th percentile for SAT score, that means you're in the top 25%. And that's the range that our students must fall in. What are the key takeaways you got from that experience of preparing? Looks like all the questions are about standardized tests. So, Christine, how about you share about this?
Yeah, I think my biggest thing was SAT testing is honestly, it's the content isn't hard. It's just they've designed the test to trick you and to try to get you on little things. So I think the biggest thing is getting used to the testing format. And honestly, most of the time it's more of a stamina test rather than like a content. It's just sitting there for 3 hours and doing just constant mental work can be really tiring sometimes. So I think my biggest thing was just practice, practice, practice really does help. And doing full practice tests or even just certain sections whenever you have the time is honestly probably the most helpful thing you could do to prepare.
Great. What about you, Rose?
Yeah, so actually for me, the change from SAT to SAT digital was a massive change that made it a lot easier for me. But in terms of preparing, I made sure to list all the types of questions that came up from previous exams, and I tried to study and practice in the parts that I was weak. I made sure to ask for help from teachers and tutors to cover up my weak points and do as many past papers as I could.
Thank you. Any other insights you want to add? Are you happy you never have to take the SAT ever again for the rest of your life?
And I'll add that Rose only took it once. So she was one of these chicks that just dropped the mic, you know. But all that prep work is what allowed that to be so successful. And I see Christine's nodding her head. Yeah, same thing.
Okay, so thank you very much, ladies. This is a non-testing question. Thank you. Because to be honest, testing is one of the important requirements, but definitely not the most important and also not the most difficult, right? As in, testing is something that is not an IQ assessment. It's something everyone here with early preparation, with actual SAT classes, whether it's group or one-on-one classes, can master over time. Yeah, so this is more about the UK system. So the US system uses a application portal called Common Application. The UK system uses a portal called the UCAS. So UCAS. You can only apply to Oxford or Cambridge, so you cannot apply to both. UK universities are 3 years for undergraduate, whereas US are 4. In the UK, you have to specialize, meaning you go deep into that major, that subject. Whereas in the US, you do general studies for 2 years, and then the final 2 years you specialize. We from our experience would say there isn't a certain high school that you must graduate from to get into Oxford or to get into a certain university, right? Because it's about doing the best in your environment and building a compelling, competitive profile that aligns with your interests. So even here, right, we have students from 3 different cities, countries, and they also went to different international schools. I think the key point here, though, is they all did some international track or curriculum. So advanced placement is very well recognized in American universities. So in Hanoi, there's only 3 AP schools, St. Paul. Do you know the other 2?
True North and
True North, yeah. And then
Concordia.
Concordia. And then, of course, Rose actually did A levels, which is more aligns with the UK system, but she also gained acceptance to UChicago. So US universities and global universities do accept AP, IB, and A levels. How to prepare for students from grade 6 to the top universities. Yes, so actually, middle school is a very, very important time to build habits and to build discipline. And so if in middle school you just chill out and you don't really take serious your academics, your extracurriculars, it's very difficult to just change gears in grade 9 and say, okay, I'm going to start being serious. Mom, I promise once I enter into grade 9, I'll take my life seriously. Colleges only look at grade 9 through 12. So that's really what counts and goes on record. But of course, everything we do, every decision we make is cumulative. It adds up. And so In middle school, we believe it's about doing as many activities and experimenting. But of course, I think I'm talking too much. So let me pass it back to the ladies. What did you do in middle school that you think helped you prepare for high school? Go ahead.
In middle school, I participated in the World Scholars Cup, like debate competition. I also participated in the global art competition in Myanmar, and I was also a participant of school clubs like the charity for um, other kids from other schools. And I also went to helped out with like cooking porridge at a hospital.
Cooking porridge at a
Yeah.
hospital. Wow. Did you cook the porridge?
No, I distribute.
Oh, you passed the
Yeah.
porridge. Can you cook? You'll have to learn when you go to
Yeah.
college. For everybody listening in here, including Christine and Rose, it's important to learn how to cook. It's important to do your own laundry, to make your own bed. These are all life skills. Yeah, so I think in middle school, you can see here, she was also very, very active, and that once again set the foundation for success. Christine, what about you?
I was doing a ton of different activities, and I think that's like in middle school that was most helpful for me because ultimately that kind of led me to figure out what I liked and didn't like and wanted to focus in or study in. So I think in middle school, honestly, just like try everything, do a little bit of everything, and then see what you're really attracted to. So do sports, do music. I think I did singing lessons. I was doing different sports. I was also doing like similar to what I did in high school. I did like debate and things like that. I did robotics, just try everything. And I think that will help you find what you do like and what you don't like.
Rose?
For me, I tried to develop a YouTube channel showing all my interests, especially from a young age. I tried to show my interest in economics, and I gradually built up my YouTube channel.
Mrs. Cookie, what did you do in middle school?
You know, honestly, middle school for me was working for the school newspaper and the yearbook. And then later I did go into journalism. So it made sense. In sports.
Awesome. Yeah, I think there's some common themes here. Sports, athletics, wellness, fitness. This is not just for universities. This is for life. So early on, if you develop healthy life habits, wake up at the same time, go to bed at the same time, you begin your day by jogging or yoga or mindfulness, or you end your day with this type of activity, it's a really great way to not only build a healthy body, but a healthy mind. I think we have another question. Do the UK universities focus less on the extracurricular activities than the US universities? Rose, you also gained acceptances to some really great UK universities. Can you share which universities, and also can you respond to that question?
Yes, so I gained acceptance into the University of Warwick. For me, the UK system personally, first of all, important to have the good grades. I think that's the basic, but I think you have to also go above and beyond that. And extracurricular is also extremely important for UK university as well.
Yeah, so I think equally as important, of course, UK universities really want to see students specialize. So when you write your personal statement, Mrs. Cookie and I know quite well, it's much more about why you want to do this major. Whereas your personal statement for US universities, it's a very creative essay that answers who am I? And one of my favorite essays this year was the cheese board essay. Christine, can you talk about your personal statement? It was such a lovely essay.
Thank you. Yeah, so my Common App essay, what I really wanted to focus on is the idea that I'm kind of a bridge between a lot of different people and a lot of different things. So I like combining things that may not seem like they should be combined or they seem very different. So I wrote that through an extended metaphor of a cheese board. So I love hosting and I love making cheese boards. So I kind of took the experience of making a cheese board and matching all of these different flavors and textures and colors and putting them onto one thing, and how that represented how when people come from all different walks of life, from all of my different activities and my different communities I'm in, how they're able to find connections that might not seem so clear, just as connections with cheese and salami or something like that, and what part I play in it as well. And I thought that was just a very apt metaphor for my life and who I think I am.
You're making me really hungry. Had dinner yet? I don't know about everybody else, so we're gonna wrap it up here real soon because I'm gonna get some cheese. Rose, do you mind introducing your YouTube channel? Can you also drop the link in here if you're okay? And by the way, you can also get a bunch of new subscribers.
I'll add to Rose or Christine's cheese board personal statement. As you can imagine, that's a pretty creative and a pretty bold topic for your personal essay for Ivy League schools. Now, Christine could pull that off because number one, she's very creative and a great writer. But number two, she had the grades, she had the test scores, she had the full package to back it up. So what were the schools missing in her profile was to see some personality. And she was absolutely prepared and showed that off beautifully so they could see the whole person. The UK schools, that kind of cheese board essay would not have been her focus. It would have been very different and a much more formal essay about her work that's leading to the work she wants to do in data science and whatnot. But the US wants to see that you are more of a holistic person in lots of different ways. You can be more creative there, as long as you can back it up.
Okay, I think we have more questions, but I need to refresh the screen here as our team members are dropping the questions in. So we have probably 2 more questions, and then we can go get some cheese. Christine, Rose, did you also eat dinner or not yet? Okay, so Christine, did you eat dinner? Nice. Rose, give me a thumbs
It's
up.
an hour later for Christine too.
Okay, how to write a better essay? Do I need to try to find and write about a topic that is excellent and different? Yeah, so Mrs. Cookie, you're the essay expert here. Could you share a bit more about the process that you go through to coach students?
I think one of the things we do is first we ask the students, do you have something that you feel compelled to write about? But aside from that, let's say they don't necessarily, they're just a regular student and they think they've had a regular life and they don't really see it. By all of the advisors, we will interview our students to learn more about them, and they tell us little stories, and we've maybe known them for a few years. Those often are the perfect starter kernels to their essays. We can see their personalities blossom through their years of high school, and it was like, wait, one time you told me about this such and such, and that was a really interesting story. And we remind them sometimes, like, look, who are you? Who do you want to show yourself to be? And I think that creative process is what produces the most authentic and interesting essays. And you can always bring in the other things you're wanting to convey. Heng, I would assume you kind of go through a similar process over there in Vietnam too. Yeah, she's nodding her head. Yes, I know her connection's a little unstable, but it's really one of the most fun things that we do is really hear from our students, hear what they want to write about. And then when we read their things, we're like, well, tell me more. I want to hear more. And that's sometimes where they dig deeper and deeper. And it just blows my mind what some of these students can produce.
I am currently a junior, so grade 11, who is interested in applying to STEM, but I'm worried that my ECAs outside of my school are not strong enough to be competitive. Do you think it is possible for me to build up some strong profiles on ECAs before I become a senior? So grade 11, now 1 semester to go, and really 1 semester left, and next semester you'll be applying to college. Christine, what's your response to that?
I was also a STEM major, but I think that it is possible, but I think it just matters like what exactly is it that you're doing, and that what you're doing actually very closely relates to what you want to do and is authentic to you. So actually a lot of my extracurriculars, even though I might have started them a little earlier, they were really only important or really had an impact that I wanted to in my junior year. So I don't think it's too late to start anything, but I think just make sure whatever you do actually makes sense to who you are as an applicant.
Fantastic. Another question. I promise this is the last one. Is it necessary to study AP in high school? Which AP course should I choose if I want to study data science? So I will let Christine take that second one because that's what she's majoring in. But the first one, the answer would be yes. Going back to what Mrs. Cookie shared, your rigor or strength of curriculum is very important. So if your school offers, and usually in Vietnam, in Thailand, globally in Asia, it's always going to be AP, IB, or A level. Those are the most common high school curricula or courses that students can take. And if your school offers the AP and you take 0 APs, then you do not have a competitive profile. So you want to challenge yourself. And once again, APs are perfect because one, these are college level courses. So you demonstrate to colleges that you're ready for that level. And then number two, if you score a 3, 4, 5, which you scored 3s and above, and Christine, I think you scored 3, 4, 5 and above, or maybe you scored all 5s. If you score 3, 4, 5, you can also receive college credit. Meaning once you get into BU, UPenn Wharton, you can apply for exemption. You don't have to take freshman, sophomore level classes in that subject. And instead you can do another class that you're interested in. Because in college, of course, you have hundreds of courses and not enough time. So having the power of choice is fantastic and it saves your parents money. Christine, take the second one.
Yeah, so for data science, ones that I think that are really important is statistics for sure. So AP stats, that's definitely something I think is necessary. And then because there is a coding aspect to it, I would recommend taking both computer science principles and computer science A. So those are 2 APs as well. And then I think just as a general thing, because you're going into STEM, it's always a good idea to show you have that academic rigor. So taking classes like Calc BC or Physics C or some sort of other STEM related ones, I think just show that you have the ability to take those more challenging classes that are often more content based in STEM. I think those are probably most important if you're looking to go into data science.
Fantastic answer. I couldn't have said it any better. I think you ladies can run this seminar, so we don't even have to be here. But AP, there are 38 courses, so it gives you a whole lot of diversity of options. Whereas in A level, you take 3 to 4, and in IB, you take 6 courses for a period of 2 years. So if you're Rose and you knew very early on you wanted to study economics, then it's perfect because you go deep into that subject. But for Christine and for Tuệ Anh, who maybe, of course, ended up wanting to study business or data science later, but wanted to explore and have more general approach to studies, AP was really a great fit. And I think probably for most students in high school, they really don't have a clear idea of what they want. So it's important to explore. So on that note, we will wrap up tonight's seminar. Thank you very much, our lovely students. We are so happy